now.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending upon where you are joining from. This is session 3 of SharePoint Week, Intelligent Discovery and Mixed Reality in SharePoint. I'm your host for today, Jaspreet, Dhamija, and we have our presenter, Baer, who's our Senior Product Marketing Manager, joining us. This broadcast is being produced by Mike Gannotti. Thanks to him for all the setup. And let's go through some housekeeping items. All right. Just if I can move my slides. All right, here we go. So this event is brought to you by the Microsoft Healthcare Life Sciences Group. Do visit us at aka.ms/HLS blog. This blog has not only the information for the session that we'll be hosting today, but all of the previous sessions and the upcoming ones, as well as updates on several other Microsoft solutions. So please do visit aka.ms/HLS blog. And a couple of other things is we encourage our attendees to ask questions. So please go ahead and tell us who you are, where are you joining from. I'll be able to see as a host all of the questions, and they won't be published unless we answer them. So we would love to give a shout out to all the people who are joining from different countries. So please mention your name and where you are from in the Q&A window, which I'll just show you in a minute. And at the end of this session and this webcast recording would be posted onto the Healthcare and Life Sciences blog, again, which is at aka.ms/HLS blog, along with any of the resources that are mentioned during this webcast. Now let's see how we can engage in the Q&A panel. So on your screen on the top right, you should be able to see a chat window icon with a question mark. That's where you click to get the question window open. And once you are in here, you can go ahead, put your name in. That's an optional, but you can ask the question, and we'll keep on moderating it and answer it as we go, or towards the end. So I do encourage for you to ask questions and tell us where you are from. So now on to the presentation. Bill, please take it away.
Thank you. Thanks for the great introduction. So again, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from today. My name is Bill Baer. I'm a technical product manager in our SharePoint product group. Today, we'd like to spend a little bit of time via this webinar to discuss two emerging trends from a technology perspective: intelligent discovery and mixed reality. And today we live in a really exciting world when you think about the innovation that we've seen via the advent of the cloud, particularly in the space of artificial intelligence as well as mixed reality. In SharePoint, in OneDrive, and in Microsoft 365 as a whole, our objective is to democratize these technologies, to make them available to everybody, but at the same time to help them empower their organizations. So first, we'll spend a little moment talking about Microsoft 365. If you think about Microsoft 365, effectively what it provides is a complete solution to empower employees, from Office 365 to Windows 10 on the desktop, and then backed by enterprise mobility and security. The time has really come to envision and embrace this concept of the new culture of work, and technology is what's really driving that. And that's why I'm so excited today to talk about these two fundamental things that can really help empower employees: artificial intelligence and mixed reality. If you think about it, most companies have been increasing their workplace investments in recent years, and even more plan to increase spending in the near future. So organizations are starting to realize and recognize that the workplace modernization really drives high-level strategic priorities and improves customer experience. It also improves revenue, and at the same time, it allows more data-driven decision-making and innovation. So Microsoft 365 focuses on 4 key areas: creativity and teamwork, which is all about unlocking the potential of every individual to drive innovation within an organization, and at the same time, intelligent security, as well as being integrated for simplicity. So we're really focused on creating the lowest total cost of ownership environment by integrating for simplicity and having the intelligent security built into the suite itself. Intelligent discovery is so important to an organization, to improving innovation within the organization, as well as the potential of individuals, because of decreasing attention span. If you think about it, we are inundated with information today. If you look at estimates, they show anywhere between 44 zettabytes of data being stored by 2020, all the way up to 120 zettabytes of data being stored and created leading into 2021. If you look at that former number and take that 44 zettabytes and really distill it down and assume that each one of those represents a 1 gigabyte file, you would effectively have more files being stored and created than stars exist in the universe. So we're seeing a massive explosion of data, and many of you have probably seen that today in your own inbox every morning. So what we've seen is almost 60% of managers are really missing information daily. The rate of information creation and the flow of information happens so quickly now, it's just hard to stay on top of. And 20% of the times just trying to find information, looking back to try to find a conversation, or to find an email, or to find a file that you've been recently working with your colleagues. So not only are we missing more information because of how fast information is created and how quickly it flows, but we're also spending more time looking for it at the same time. And much of that data we're looking for is unstructured data. So one of the ways that we're solving that problem, not only at Microsoft, but just globally from a technology perspective, is really the investment in intelligent technology. So if you think about it, by 2021, $52 billion are going to be spent on cognitive services and artificial intelligence, $17 billion on computer vision, and $58 billion on machine learning. And all of that is because our workplaces are really fundamentally changing. With that growth in data, that also leads to the limited attention spans, which makes finding information harder and harder. At the same time, the traditional IT role is shifting. So if you think about what IT used to represent, IT were largely service administrators, applying patches, ensuring uptime, focusing on recovery time and recovery point objectives. But really the role of IT is changing from beyond just being systems administrators to actually becoming value-added service brokers, adding value to the organization. And helping establish that new role is, again, artificial intelligence, intelligent discovery, machine learning, deep learning. And a lot of these expectations have really morphed because people want more knowledge and answers, not just data. So a search and discovery experience has kind of evolved from what we call recovery to discovery. And if you think of what recovery used to represent in the past, is you would largely plug in a term into a search box, and then you'd be presented with a static set of links. And people have higher expectations now of how to find information. And because there is so much information being created, we need to create better ways to actually discover it. So it goes beyond just presenting a bunch of links. The recovery experience was typing in a query and continuing to refine that query to find the information that's most relevant to what you're looking for. Intelligent discovery is exactly that. It's no longer recovery. It's no longer the act of trying to retrieve information. It's information being brought to you that's contextually relevant that you don't necessarily need to ask for. So this is this concept of zero-type querying, and we'll take a look at some demonstrations throughout the course of the webinar today to help better articulate what that is. And at the same time, the best run companies are really supporting decision-making at the edge, embracing these technologies. From a Microsoft search perspective, what we'll focus on today, our goal is really to deliver results and answers and insights and actions. So again, going beyond presenting a set of static links to actually presenting contextually relevant and actionable search results. And we want to do that across operating systems, across applications, digital assistants, as well as the browser. So Microsoft Search is designed to deliver a coherent search experience regardless of the endpoint you execute your search experience from. So it's really taking search and turning it into something that can empower you wherever you are. So search follows you. One search to rule them all. So it's finding, it's navigating, as well as commanding and discovering. And this isn't a new concept to Microsoft. We have been on this journey for some time. Effectively, we've had continuous learning from everyday collaboration patterns used to make search better for all of our customers. In 2008, we made our first major step into the search market via our FAST acquisition. We then acquired Yammer in 2012. We built our first application on the Microsoft Graph in 2014. That was our Office Graph and our Microsoft Delve implementation. And then we delivered personalized search in Office.com in 2018. So search has been a continuous journey for us. And we've moved from beyond 2008, from that recovery experience, into 2018, really emphasizing the discovery experience. So today, we'd like to introduce Microsoft Search. Effectively, what we see Microsoft Search as is it's one capability, it's every search experience, and it's powered by both the Graph and Bing technology. So as you can see here, regardless of where you execute your search request, your discovery experience, it's available across every endpoint within the Microsoft 365 suite. So whether you're searching in Bing, you're searching in the Office applications, both web and on the desktop, in SharePoint, in Edge, in Windows, PowerPoint, Outlook, Excel, Yammer, Word, Teams, Sway, OneNote, regardless of where that search is executed, we're going to deliver a consistent search experience that's contextually relevant to the user themselves. And all of this is powered again by the Graph and Bing technology. So we're able to combine world knowledge via Bing with work knowledge via the Graph and people knowledge via the Graph. So we effectively can balance both work and work life in one single search experience. So let's go ahead and look at the different endpoints, what we call intelligent search across Microsoft 365. One, it's your results everywhere. It's insightful. So we enable you to harvest knowledge so you can take action faster or effectively get back to work faster. And it's personalized to your network, to your work network. So those contextually relevant results look at a number of different signals. And a signal is a relationship between an actor and an object. An actor is an individual and an object can be a file, for example. And the signal is how you interact, the interaction between that actor and between that object. How does an individual interact with that file? Was it via a search experience, or was that interaction generated between an organizational relationship? Was it based on a similar membership in a security group or a distribution group? Perhaps all of the collaborators or the actors are members of the same SharePoint site. Or they have some metadata about themselves that establishes a relationship that we can detect. So we can bring these contextually relevant results back to the user based on the actions that they're taking with the data itself. Our search experiences are also designed to be what we call boundaryless. So it's not only across devices, but it's also across data stores, experiences, and services. So we can look outside of the scope of the organization and bring contextualized results to you where you're working. And then lastly, it's trustworthy. So it's backed by all of the security and compliance investments that exist in Microsoft 365. So let's first talk about these multiple entry points. As I mentioned, Microsoft Search is designed to be a coherent search experience across all of the variety of endpoints we talked about a moment ago. Whether you execute your request in Bing, or you execute your request in Office.com, or the Office applications themselves, or even within SharePoint and SharePoint's mobile apps, we have a number of different entry points. So it's consistently placed across those applications that you use and work with every day. So if you're in Windows 10 and you're searching via the desktop, or you're on your mobile device, or you're on the web, we're going to surface a consistent set of search results, all backed by the power of Microsoft Search. So Microsoft Search in Office.com surfaces the same search scope across all of Microsoft 365. In the mobile app, It's the default experience when you enter the app. It's also in the Outlook mobile app, so intelligent search capabilities help you find content and people on the go. And it's also available in Office. So if you're in the Office application, you can search in the ribbon and you get the same consistent experience and results. And you also have that experience in Windows. So that includes both local as well as organizational results, because people do have files and content on their desktop. It's also designed to be accessible. So you can quickly and securely find all of the content that you need from any device on any browser. So you can use People Search to learn about the person that you're meeting with, or to learn more about the people that you would like to meet with. So effectively, the ability to find experts and subject matter experts across your organization quickly. You can also perform location searches. So if you're looking for an office or you're looking for a location, trying to find a conference room, you can easily do that via the search experience now. And then you can use file searches to review presentations that you're about to give, or to get back to work quicker, to work on something that you had previously been working on. So first, we'll talk a little bit about Microsoft Search and Bing. Effectively, finding work results are as simple with Microsoft Search and Bing as searching for public web results. You can search for people, and not only just people, you can also search for conversations within your organization. You can search for files and groups across all of your Microsoft connected services. You can search for bookmarks to internal sites and tools. You can look for building results and locations, as well as get directions from Bing on how to actually get there. And you can search for questions and answers for work-related questions. So let's go ahead and take a quick pause and look at Bing real quick. So bear with me as we move into the browser, and we'll share what this looks like from a Bing search experience. So here we should be looking at a browser, and what you can see here is just a basic screen that says root site. But as much as people use email as their first entry point to the start of their day, the web is also the first entry point to discovering information. So by combining the technology of the Microsoft Graph and Microsoft Bing, we're able to bring both work and life results into one consistent location. And the reason we want to be able to do that is the address bar is one of the first places that people go when they search for information. Largely anymore, we don't see people navigating directly to google.com, directly to bing.com, directly to DuckDuckGo, or whatever their preferred search engine is. What we see is more and more people are actually using the address bar as the start or as the end point for their search experience. So more often than not, you've probably sat down in front of your preferred browser and you've entered a query. Perhaps you're looking for a restaurant, or you're looking for driving directions, or you're looking to do research on the web. In either case, in many times, you'll just type that query into your browser. So for example, if I'm looking for Dan Holm, one of my colleagues, one of the first things I'll probably do is type Dan Holm in the address bar of my browser. So what happens by integrating Microsoft Search with Bing is I can actually find organizational results, as you can see here in the upper pane, as well as web results down on the bottom. So this is an example of blending both work and life via Microsoft Search. Now, the first question you may have is, are all of my organizational results then stored on the web? No, these are two unique search experiences. We just pull the result blocks together for you. So your index is secured and stored in Microsoft 365, and then the Bing results are just supplemental, and they come from Bing's index. So there are effectively two indexes for your information. So we're not combining work and life, we're presenting them in an aggregate way to help you find information quicker. So as you can see, I searched Bing for Dan Holm, one of my colleagues. I have organizational results. So as you can see, I can see the reporting structure. I can also see who reports to Dan, so I get a great set of organizational results. I can also see upcoming events with Dan. So if I quickly want to search my calendar, I recall having a meeting with somebody, but I can't recall which date they set that meeting up for. All I have to do is search Microsoft Search for that individual, and I can actually be apprised of those events. So I can not only see today's events, but I'd also be prompted with any upcoming events with Dan. I can also look at files, and as you can see, only the files that are shared with me would appear here. So I can't see all of Dan's files. I can only see the content that Dan has shared with me or a group that I'm a member of. So as you can see, I can get back to the files that Dan has shared with me, perhaps those that we're collaborating with each other on. I can again see the organizational results. So if I wanted to drill in further, or perhaps send an email or place a phone call, I can very easily do that right here from the search experience. And then groups. In many cases, Dan and I might share group membership. We may be members of some of the same groups, and perhaps I want to get back to those groups very quickly. So as you can see, the shared groups that Dan and I participate in are the human resources, finance, IT, marketing, and sales groups. And then I can drill directly down into those groups by just clicking into them. I can also find sites. So if I search across all of my SharePoint sites, I can find the sites that Dan Holm participates in. And those are sites that perhaps because of our organizational relationship or our shared content relationship, I might want to consider either joining those sites or talking to Dan about those sites to see if there's any contribution that I can make. So this is effectively a way to enable proactive communication, to enable you to network better and connect better to the content that might be important to you, that empowers you to do your job. And then one of my favorites is conversations. Conversations are one of those things that are so rapid in today's technology world. And there's a couple of different ways to converse within an organization in the scope of Microsoft 365's Teamwork solutions. Teams chats, which you may be familiar with, all of you are on a Teams live event today, are one of the ways that individuals can collaborate to really have velocity conversations with each other. And then we also have Yammer conversations. So you have two different loops of conversation if you think about it. You have the within your direct within the direct relationships that you have with individuals within your organization, you can have high velocity Teams chats. And then if you want to expand beyond those boundaries and have broader conversations with larger groups, or perhaps you want to have organizational level conversations, you can of course have those conversations in Yammer. So we kind of have these facilities to which you can have different conversations based on scope and size. I want to be able to get back to those conversations quickly, but because they happen so fast, a conversation might start at 5 p.m. when I'm getting ready to start my commute, and then I want to be able to get back to it to find it the next morning. And Microsoft Search is an easy way for me to do that. So as you can see here, I can look at conversation results for Dan Holm. So I can get back quickly to our Teams conversations. I can also get back quickly to our Yammer conversations. And that's one of the most important things if you think about the discovery experience, because we want to be able to get back to that information. So for example, I might recall that Stephen Rose and I had a conversation, or I might say, you know, I remember Stephen Rose reaching out to me, but I can't remember quite why. So I can perform a result in a search in the browser, and I can get back to those conversations very quickly. So I can see those conversations with Stephen Rose. The great part is I can also just look across it more broadly. So I can see not only Stephen's organizational profile, the files that he and I collaborate on, the sites that Stephen and I may be members of, the Yammer conversations, and then we also have this great thing called bookmarks. And perhaps I want to suggest a bookmark. So Stephen Rose is the president. He's got an interesting blog, perhaps, an organizational level blog that he would like us all to participate in to share news about the business. So I can suggest to IT a bookmark. So I can give the bookmark a title, and I can call it Stephen's blog. And perhaps I want to put a link to the blog, some keywords on how to get to it. So I can add keywords, and I can suggest this to IT, and then I can give it a description. I can then send that off, and the feedback would be sent to IT. And then IT can come in via the new Microsoft Search Admin Center in Microsoft 365 administration, and they can look at those different bookmarks. So as you can see, we have 21 published bookmarks. We have 16 that have been suggested across the organization, and then we also have Q&As. I can also look across the impression distribution for 7, 30, 90 days, or I can create a custom range. So really distribution over time. What are people looking for? How are my search results across the organization surfacing? So I can look into that. Again, I can come into bookmarks now, and I can look at the different bookmarks that have been created. So in this particular case, if somebody's looking for transportation, I can automatically recommend Sound Transit as a result based on my region. I can look at the suggestions, and as you can see right away, Stephen's blog pops up as a suggestion. So as IT, I can come in and I can approve this and publish this suggestion. So when people search for Stephen's blog, they'll be directed to the right location. Similarly, purchase order looks like one that was actually suggested. But let's just come over here real quick and search for transportation because we know that's a bookmark. So if I search for transportation, as you can see, I get that recommendation right there. It gives me the link to soundtransit.org because that was a bookmark we created. So it's a great way to help people find important information in the organization. We also have what we call Q&As. So as you can see, this particular Q&A is where can I learn more about Microsoft Search? So Q&As are kind of cool because I can come in, where can I learn more about Microsoft Search? So what Q&As allow me to do is actually send people to a location as well as add my own custom text to it. So Q&As are a great way to effectively provide kind of a frequently asked question experience via the intelligent discovery capabilities of Microsoft Search. So looking here, it directs me to a location to where I can learn more, and it also provides me some basic information. All of that information I was able to configure here from a Q&A perspective. Location searches, as I can actually publish locations. So I can search for something like City Center. So I can come in and search for City Center, which is one of our buildings at Microsoft. And searching for City Center would give me the address, and it allows me to get directions on Bing Maps. I can also zoom in, so it takes the capabilities of Bing to allow me to do that. You can also upload drawings of your layout, of your building layouts. So if you want to drill down to an individual's office, you can actually search for a person's office with those search results. So I'll give you an example of which I'm just going to go ahead and pause. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to reshare from, instead of a demo environment, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to Microsoft Edge, and we're actually going to look at some real corporate results. So let me search for Dan Holm again. And what I'm going to search for is I'm going to search Microsoft for Dan Holm's office. When I search for Dan Holm's office, as you can see, it gives me the office location. So it shows me that Dan is in Bravern 1, and it also shows me which office Dan is in, and I can drill down into it. And configuring this is really as simple as uploading a DWG file that contains some metadata as well as the office locations and maps that allow you to drill in. So now I can look through, I can find Dan's office, I can get directions directly to it. I can also look for different facilities within the building itself. So now that I know where Dan Holm's office is, perhaps I want to have a meeting with Dan Holm and some other individuals. So that meeting may be too big for just Dan and I to sit in his office. I can search for meeting rooms within that particular building, or I can look for printing areas if there's materials that I want to print and bring with me. So I can find all of the resources that I need. So that's kind of one of the ways that you can perform a location search experience. So we're going to go ahead real quick, and we're going to go back to the demo environment to look at a few other things. So users and permissions, again, is another thing that you can set. In our preview program today, you can actually control the experience by creating what we have preview experiences or preview users. That limits the search, the new Microsoft Search experience to a specific set of peoples or security groups. I can also create editors. So editors can only change content that appears in the organization's search results. They have read-only access to any other area of the portal. So you kind of have this idea of delegated administration. And then I can create administrators that can administer the search experience. I can also turn on or off connected services. So if I want to disable people search experience, or perhaps I want to turn Yammer off, I can actually turn those off via those connected services. On the content settings, I can get a sample of what the search experience looks like. I can come in and change my organization name. I can personalize it with my own logo and colors, and then I can create my own query suggestions. And then we have a variety of other tools that you can use to make the search experience better. So you can import your SharePoint promoted result query rules as bookmarks. So if you already have those promoted result query rules in SharePoint, you can bring those into the Microsoft search experience. I can also import my top SharePoint queries as bookmarks. So instead of creating a bunch of bookmarks, I probably already know from using SharePoint what those are. I can just import those. I can also use the sign-in extension for Chrome, the search in Bing extension, as well as the content creator browser extension for both Chrome as well as Edge. So you've got some powerful capabilities via this search experience here. Coming back to content settings, one of the things you might have seen here is where it says My Documents. And this is really cool too, because if I want to get back to things I've been working on, I can search for My Documents. And because I've created that content experience, it shows me all of my files and the ones I've been working on. So I can quickly get back to perhaps the investor relations disclaimer. And again, it's contextually relevant. So it's bringing that information to me, the most important information at the right time. So that was just kind of a quick tour of the Bing experience itself. So what we'll do is I'm going to go ahead and go back into the presentation, but I'd like to just take a brief pause because I know I talk fast and we've covered a lot of information in a very short amount of time. So I'll take a brief pause, see if there's any questions, and then we'll continue and look at some of the other endpoints.
Yes, Bill, there are a lot of questions. And before that, I would like to make a quick shout out for people joining us from Netherlands, from Charlotte, where it's freezing cold, Gurgaon, India, and Florida. So welcome all, and thanks for telling us where you are from. Now, quick questions. So one of the questions, Bill, here is, can they use Microsoft Search to find content in Stream?
Sure. So from a roadmap perspective, we definitely do have plans to integrate across the other applications within the Microsoft 365 suite of services, inclusive of Microsoft Stream. We're also going to be adding support for both images as well as video that may not reside in Stream. So the simple answer to that question is yes, that's an actual capability that's on the horizon.
Okay, and then we have a few questions. People are asking when this capability would be available to them.
So you can start using Microsoft Search today. So if you visit your Microsoft 365.
Bill, you hit mute by accident.
Sorry, is that a little bit better? Thanks. So you can actually start using Microsoft Search today. You can enable it via the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. So if you log into your Admin Center, you'll be able to see a Microsoft Search Admin Center. If you haven't configured it already, it will ask you to activate it or enable it. And you can enable it today. Today, Microsoft Search is in a preview experience, and that's why we have that capability called Preview Users. So if you have concerns that it is still in a public preview state, you can actually limit the search results to a subset of users that you want to be able to see it. So perhaps you want to do some initial evaluation of how Microsoft Search can support your organization. Perhaps you just want to make sure that you have the right bookmarks, the right questions and answers, the right location search and people search experience initially. Again, you can go in today. You can activate it. You can assign a set of users that it would actually be deployed to. You can validate the experience, and then you can open it up more broadly.
Okay. Another question is, if we have access to multiple tenants that have Microsoft Search enabled in Bing, will we get search results from all of the tenants?
Today, your results are going to be derived from the tenant to which the user is authenticated against. So we do have a logical boundary to ensure that the results are related to the tenant to where that search request is executed. So that authenticated user would only have access to that content that they're authenticated to.
Okay, and maybe one more. We have a lot more questions, but I don't want to derail the presentation. So another question is the intelligent discovery or search result based on insights generated on the historical search by an individual as well, or it's just the search text we put in?
No, indeed. So we do from a personalization perspective, again, take that user history into account. So one of the things that I mentioned is this idea of actors, objects, and signals. And the actors, objects, and signals allow for not only the personalization, but personalization also means understanding the user and also understanding intent. So definitely. And I think with that, you wanted to move on from some questions into a few other places. So let's just go ahead, get back to the deck, and we'll come back to the questions momentarily after we work through a few more endpoints. So keep the questions coming, and we'll take a pause as frequently as possible to get through both the content, but I also want to ensure that we get as many questions that you may have answered. So moving on, let's look at one more endpoint, and this is the Office.com endpoint. So as I mentioned, Microsoft Search is a coherent search experience. Microsoft Search doesn't only exist in Bing. Bing is one of those places to where you can bring both work and life results together while at the same time adapting to existing user behavior, because users are creatures of habit. We tend to perform the same actions each day from a work perspective. So in many cases, that's opening up Outlook first thing in the morning and checking email. But even then, search is another one of those things, and we want to be consistent with how users' expectations work, balancing kind of both work and life. So from that expectation perspective, again, we don't want to have to force users into a context switch because that tends to decrease adoption and cause confusion. So if we can bring work results to that user based on activities that they're already familiar with or are already doing, then it's a win. And in this particular case, users have an expectation of just typing a query into the address bar and getting work results back or getting web results back. And what we found through our telemetry is more and more people are actually entering corporate search terms into the address bar itself, particularly in Bing. So by understanding that, we're able to respond to user expectations and deliver the right set of results. But that doesn't mean that all of this just exists in Bing. Again, Microsoft Search is designed to be a coherent search experience regardless of where you choose to search from. So it's really search that follows you across your devices and your applications. So Microsoft Search and Office.com allows you to find and get back to your work faster. So you can get started, create new documents, you can easily return to your work after a meeting, or again, if a work item surfaces right before you're about to leave the office, you can quickly get back to it without having to recollect where it came from or who it came from, because we understand the intent. You can also find applications from across your organization. So it's not just about finding content and people and sites and conversations. We can also help you discover applications across your organization. And then you can look for relevant content for you as well as actions from your colleagues as well. And all of this also finds its way into the Office applications themselves. So we can give you relevant results across Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, both within the browser as well as within the applications on your desktop. It also helps you find actions and services that help you complete your task. So again, these are actionable search results, and this is actionable intelligence. So it's not only about helping you find things, it's also helping you work more efficiently. So when you're searching in PowerPoint or you're searching in Excel or you're searching in Word, we're going to present you with actions and we're going to provide you services. And we're also going to surface up relevant content that we've discovered that might help you perform that task more efficiently or help you perform that task more rapidly. So it's really taking that 20% of time that I talked about in the very beginning, where people are looking for information, 20% of the time spent finding information, 59% of managers, missing important information. It's really about pulling all of that together and reducing, that 59%, reducing that 20%. And then it's also bringing the power of Office and the web to you without you having to switch applications. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch into a demo, again, very briefly. So what we're going to do is we're going to come back to another demonstration. So here we are again in Bing. This is where we left off. But let's suppose I go to office.com. So here I am in office.com. And as you can see, what it's doing is this is my first run experience. So it's giving me some guidance on how this experience works or why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So as you can see, find it faster is one of those pieces of guidance, getting recommendations based on activity and what others are working with around me. So as you can see here, I've got the applications that are personalized for me. So where am I spending my time? Which applications may be important to me based on, how I work, who I work with, the actions I'm taking. So very contextual. I'm also seeing recommendations here. So I have recommended documents. So the reason it's recommending the employee handbook is because it's a file I recently opened. So as you can see on February 26th, I've opened a number of different files, value prop, package cruise bundle, proposal. And the reason I'm getting these recommendations is because of activity that has transpired against those documents that's relevant to me. And this is an easy way to allow me to get back to my work. So I may have been working on multiple documents, as you can see on this given day. And as you can see, there was a lot of context switching in the scope of my duties on a day-to-day basis. Not only am I updating the employee handbook, but I'm also working on value prop across two different things, general value prop as well as travel sales proposals. And then I also have another proposal for cruise packages. So I have a number of different things that are happening in my day because we're all asked or all being asked to do more. And in many cases, we're asked to do more and do it with less. So we're taking on more and more roles and responsibilities within our organization. So you might spend a lot of time context switching. From a life sciences perspective, you may be working with patients. You may be working with formulas. You may be working across a number of different things. But this is an easy way to get back to those things because it's letting me know what I've worked on. So I don't have to try to remember that PowerPoint presentation that I was working on yesterday or one that I was working on last week. It surfaces up as recommendations to me. If I have recent online Office documents, they'll appear here. I can also look at pinned documents. So from the recent tab, I can actually pin a document. And basically what I can do is if I had a recent document over here, I can actually perform an action that's called pinning. Pinning is effectively bookmarking, so I can see my pinned documents there. I can also see what's been shared with me. So this is an easy way for me to get back to things that I'm working on with others. So in this particular case, Randy, Navjot, and CJ have shared files with me, and then I can see more. And what it's doing is surfacing the more relevant ones first, and then the least relevant ones will show up in the more results or the show more pane. But what this dialog allows for me is to get back to files that I've collaborated with others against. I don't have to go back to the email to try to find a file that somebody may have sent to me or a link that somebody may have sent to me. I can easily get back to those to see what's shared with me. And then I can discover relevant content. So again, this is taking that information from the graph and it's making recommendations, intelligent recommendations on what I should consider looking at. So this is a great example here. As you can see, I'm working on a Northwind meeting proposal. I'm also working on a package cruise bundle proposal. I'm working on general value proposition. So here it's making a recommendation that says perhaps you should check out this file that you have access to, Culinary Adventures Tour proposal. So as you can see, it's detecting what I'm working on in the context of what I'm working on and making recommendations based on that. So it's helping me network better, but it's also helping me be better prepared for meetings, being better prepared for content creation, helping me ensure that I'm aligned with business partners across the organization because many of us may be working on proposals. As you can see, I've also got profiles of trip leaders, so it's taking that into an account. Welcome to Adventure, an ELT update, press release. So really it's giving me a bunch of recommendations based on how I work and who I'm working with. If I want to see my recent OneDrive folders, I can see those here. And for frequent sites, I can see those here. What are the sites that I'm frequenting most often? What are the sites that I'm following? So I can quickly get back to those sites. And if I want to navigate directly into OneDrive, I can just click over on the link down at the bottom. Now, the great part is we bring all that together in the Bing experience itself. So if I go to Dan Holm again, and again, just a quick address bar search, I can actually get to office.com. So if there is something that I should see, so I'm just going to go to Files. And as you can see, I'm performing a file search against Dan. It'll actually notify me, hey, there's some more results on office.com. And this gives me results in the context of where I'm at. So now I'm hitting office.com and Dan Holm is my search experience. So I'm searching again for Dan. And here I can see files that I have access to. I can see the sites, again, across Dan and I. I can see people results for Dan, and I can also get results from SharePoint News. So in SharePoint, if somebody created a news item, I can see those, or I can get a nice aggregate view here. So again, the idea here is having that coherent search experience for Microsoft Search, regardless of the endpoint that you choose to execute search from. And it's really powerful because not only am I getting these search results across these endpoints, really what I'm getting is contextually relevant results across these endpoints. So I'm just going to move back into the slides in the interest of time so we can move on. So Office Online, we also can extend the power of search to Office Online. So that allows you to use the Office Online applications as an entry point into the search experience. So as I mentioned in the Office.com experience, if I had Office Online documents that I had recently been working on, those would have been surfaced there, and then I could have pinned them to bookmark them for later. So if you're working within the browser on a document such as PowerPoint Online, it allows you to discover relevant people and important content when you need it the most in the context of the action that you're performing. So you not only you gain this intuitive start page, which brings you closer to kind of what's trending around you. Again, being very aware, intent-driven, and contextually relevant, and recommending content and people to help your discovery experience. And not only that, the SharePoint mobile app is also an entry point into our search experience, so you can tap into your organization's knowledge. So we have a new Find tab, which provides for a more streamlined experience. It collapses sites, links, people, and search into one single unified view, as you can see here on the slide. It also shows common questions, personalized results, search history, and frequent searches that your organization can curate. And you get quick access to the recent sites and the people that you work with. So really what we're doing is delivering that Bing and graph-powered experience, which represents kind of the foundation of Microsoft Search, and incorporating it into all of these endpoints. So regardless of the device or browser or application that you choose to execute your search against, you're going to get results within the context of that endpoint. So Microsoft Search and Outlook is a great example. On any platform. So you can find the right item faster. So you get top relevant results, quick result suggestions, you get the proactive recommendations, but you also get search success because it gives you guided suggestions and better intent understanding. So spelling correction, implied filtering, all of those things to help ensure search success. But you can also search beyond just email, and you can also find calendar, people, attachments, and links. And the great thing that I mentioned earlier is not only is this a coherent search experience regardless of the endpoint, but it's very contextual, meaning if you're in Outlook, we're going to prioritize what you may be looking for in Outlook. And the chances are if you're searching in Outlook, you're not looking for office locations, you're looking for email results. So we're going to prioritize bringing you the results based on the entry point. So making it contextual to that scope as well. So if you're searching in Outlook, the thing that's probably most critical to you is finding an email. If you're searching in office.com, you're probably looking for files. If you're searching in Teams or you're searching in Yammer, you're probably looking for conversations. So really what we do is we take into account where the user is executing the search from and then bringing them results that are in context of that application or that endpoint. And then it also comes to Windows as well. So right from your desktop, you can get answers from the search bar across both local content as well as organization and web content. So really it harnesses all of the collective knowledge from across your organization and aggregates that and brings that into a single view right via the Windows search box. So you can search Windows and the web to find people, files, applications, and locations with the same experience. And then that takes us into kind of the people search experience. So perhaps you're looking for an expert. Or you're looking for somebody with a particular skill set. This enables you, people search enables you to connect with those experts and to find content through people themselves. So you get people suggestions, which results give full access to their Office 365 and LinkedIn profile. So if you're looking for a subject matter expert within the organization, perhaps their connected LinkedIn profile provides that additional subset of metadata that identifies them as an expert in a specific field, because most people keep their LinkedIn profile more up to date than their internal profile. And this enables a way to pull together the two to find the right experts and to find people with the right skill set. So you can find experts through profile data as well as the topics that they work on. And then you can also get contextual task completion through people. So once you search for a person, share, chat, browse content, locate that individual, and more. So there's a number of different ways. From a search experience perspective, we're unifying search administration across Microsoft 365. So you can manage the search service via the central console, which we took a look at a moment ago. You can also monitor search usage and health via some of the built-in analytics, as you can see here. And again, taking recommended actions to improve the search experience so intelligence finds its way into administration as well. So we can make recommendations to help you improve not only your search experience, but also just manage security and privacy settings centrally as well. And then some of the other things, as I demonstrated, is you can configure bookmarks, best bets, glossary, questions and answers, and do all of those things from one search experience. And the great part is users are also invested in search as well, because they can make those recommendations, you can review them and improve them. So it kind of takes the guesswork out of trying to configure the right search experience and takes the user themselves into an account. So that's that thing that gets you beyond being a systems administrator to being that value-added service broker. So we're just going to go ahead one last time before we start talking about mixed reality in the last 30 minutes that we have. And we're going to go to one last view here. So I'm just going to share again. We're going to come back into Office here. So here we are again in office.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch gears. I'm going to go into Outlook and open up my mailbox here. So as you can see, I've got a number of different mails, but as you can see, I can search for both mail and people. So we'll just search again. Now, this is what we call zero typing search. Now, this is the great part, because you'll notice right when I click in the search bar, Dan Holm is automatically one of my top recommendations. Zero typing search takes a lot of my history into an account. So who am I working with most frequently? Who am I searching for? Who am I collaborating with? And then I get those results prioritized for me by understanding intent. So I didn't even have to do anything other than click, and it automatically gave me a recommendation. I can click on Dan, and I can quickly find information from Dan, so I can get back to work. I can look at all of it. I can look at a date. I can, again, simply just drill right down in to Dan himself. I can search for somebody else like Christina and get type ahead search results. So as you can see, it's making recommendations. And if I want to search for people, I can search for Christina. And this is the actionable set of results. So now I can just hop right in and perhaps call Christina, or I can have a quick conversation and chat with Christina. Or if I wanted to, I could schedule a meeting right here. Very simple. So I can look for a person based on group membership, distribution, list membership, or an individual themselves, and schedule a quick meeting with Christina. So I can come and add details about the event. I can choose a location, and I'd get suggested locations if I had any there. So building 1. So I'm gonna, and it's gonna find me a room in building 1. So I'm gonna choose the Adams conference room. So as you can see, the power of search is everywhere. It's pervasive. It's across all of the different experiences. I can add a charm to it. In this particular case, maybe I want to talk about travel. So I'll just call this travel. And then I can quickly just give it my category, and I can send this to Christina. But the whole idea here is that the search experience is pervasive. It's beyond just presenting you with a bunch of links. It's actionable because it's giving you things to do, making recommendations. And as you can see here, I've got my reminder all ready for Christina. And then perhaps I want to start drafting up a PowerPoint presentation. So as you can see, now I'm in PowerPoint Online, and I'm getting a recommendation here. And it's because I opened this document recently. So I can come in here and search. And again, as you can see, 0 typing search, application recommendations, people, again with Dan, and then site recommendations. So I can search in here and search for travel. And as you can see, I can search for something like travel programs. That'll take me to the travel program site. So I can quickly get into there. But maybe I just want to create a blank presentation real quick. So I can click New Presentation, and then all of this activity is generating the signals between the actor and the object. So I have a slide here. I can call this slide search, and then I can click on design because I want to design my slides. But you'll notice over here we've got this concept called design ideas, and I just kind of want to show the pervasiveness of intelligence and everyday AI across Microsoft 365. So I can come into design ideas. You'll notice that it's intelligent in that it's not only giving me design ideas for my slide, but it understood the term search. And by that understanding, it understands intent. So it's going to give me a magnifying glass to represent search as an icon. To give you another example, what if I created something called announcements? And let's see how everyday AI translates announcements. So again, in design ideas, and as you can see, it gives me a microphone or a megaphone. So it gives me a bunch of different options here. So I can go in and do a number of different things. Perhaps I want a questions and answers slide. So I can come in, I can look at a design idea and questions and answers. So I get those icons. So AI allows me to do a lot of things, but takes a lot of time away from performing a bunch of different actions. So in this particular case, instead of me going out for searching for icons and spending an inordinate amount of time trying to decorate my slides, everyday AI allows me to just take those recommendations and build these beautiful slides in a few simple clicks. And then I can quickly come back to it because Office.com or Microsoft Search in general is going to recognize that activity, and that's going to be one of those recent things it prepares for me. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about another exciting area of innovation in the space of technology, and that is mixed reality experiences. Today, what we're going to talk about is mixed reality in the context of SharePoint in particular. So from a SharePoint perspective, we're going to spend some time talking about mixed reality here, and that's what we call SharePoint Spaces. And SharePoint Spaces is designed to be immersive and engaging mixed reality experiences, which is important, but what's more important is the democratization of mixed reality that SharePoint Spaces brings. So it's not only immersive and engaging, it's for everyone on every device. So first, let's talk about why we're focusing on this. The reason is because communications continue to evolve, and it's changing the world every step of the way. If you think back over the course of time, we've gone from print to telegraph to telephone to television to the internet. So we're continuing to evolve how we create, communicate, and consume information. You know, whether we're doing it in the office or we're doing it on the go, we need new ways to collaborate. So kind of like the Industrial Revolution brought brought us steam and mechanical inventions that kind of spawned mass production, intelligent and immersive experiences are going to help us blend the physical and virtual divide. So we've gone from managing your content to global cloud scale to mobility and artificial intelligence, and now into bringing immersive experiences to content collaboration as well. So first, I'll kind of prime us on what mixed reality is. And really, to keep it simple, we effectively have two universes today. We've got the universe on the left-hand side, which is our physical reality. It's the one that's based on atoms and the laws of physics. On the right, we have our other universe, which is the digital reality. And that one's based on bits and digital logic. These universes each have their corresponding realities, a physical reality on the left and a digital reality on the right. With mixed reality, applications can now weave the physical and the digital together. So it allows you to really discover the world around you as you move through an entire floor or a building, for example. So you can think of mixed reality as the intersection between the digital and the physical, but it's less than a single point, and it's really more of a broader spectrum, to try to explain it, in general terms. So there's kind of this spectrum of physical reality, virtual reality, and then somewhere in the middle is where we find our mixed reality experience. And each mixed reality experience will decide frame to frame on how to blend the world. So what we have is you can make different trade-offs for environments that you do for objects and humans within that environment. So we have environments, we have objects, and we have humans as part of this overall experience. So effectively, if you think about what the virtuality continuum is, on one side of the spectrum, the left-hand side, you have augmented reality. On the right-hand side, you have virtual reality. And then in the center is what you have is mixed reality. And what mixed reality allows us to do is, again, blend the digital and physical realities. So an example of which is imposing a holographic image into a physical space. So there is a physical reality, which may be an empty room. And there is a virtual reality, which may be objects that you want to place into that room. And mixed reality allows you to take those objects and place them into the physical space. With SharePoint Spaces, we want to make immersive, engaging mixed reality available to everybody. And by democratizing mixed reality, we see a great opportunity to help change the way that people collaborate and their behavioral expectations in working with objects designed for a mixed reality experience. So with that said, the first thing we decided to do is, one, it should be for everybody, because creating a mixed reality environment today is inordinately difficult unless you have fundamental understandings of the Unity engine, WebGL, WebVR, Babylon.js, 3JS, JavaScript libraries designed for three-dimensional experiences. And you have an understanding of concepts such as occlusion and spatial mapping and haptics technologies. All of these things take an expert level of knowledge to build a mixed reality experience. What we wanted to do is really democratize it and enable everybody to do it. And the reason is because more and more content that's being created are 3D models, 360-degree images, and 360-degree videos. And all of these are best experienced in mixed reality. So for SharePoint Spaces, we had 4 principles. 1, it should be for everybody, which means you can use any mixed reality device or browser, and it's available in all Office 365 plans. So you can enable new first-line workers and information worker scenarios using mixed reality. 2, making it for creators. So enabling people to get quickly started with smart templates, leveraging your existing skills and your fundamental understandings of how SharePoint works and your existing content, you can bring this new dimension to your intranet. Then being powered by intelligence. So as we talked about earlier, intelligence is pervasive. It's not only the search experiences themselves, but it's also helping you perform activities as a result of your search. So when I searched for Christina, I got guided steps on setting up a meeting with Christina, or perhaps chatting with Christina. So it's really unlocking all of that knowledge with the graph and taking everything that we talked about in the first hour and bringing that to mixed reality as well. So again, giving you the insights into people and content. And then we wanted it to be integrated and extensible at the same time. So not only did we want these mixed reality experiences to be easy and for everybody and on every device, but we also want to make it very simple to get started. So what I'm going to do real quick is I want to give you a demonstration via a two-dimensional example. Now, unfortunately, one of the things that we can't really demo over a live event is this idea of me putting on a headset and immersing myself in content. So what we're going to do is here I am in my same demo environment, as I'll show you how easy it is to get started with mixed reality. So I'm in SharePoint, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to SharePoint Home, again, driven by the same intelligence that empowers search. And I'm going to get back to my frequent site quickly. So as you can see, it's taking a lot of guesswork on how to navigate the organization, leveraging intelligence. So here I have Contoso outdoor gear. And I'll show you how easy it is to create a mixed reality canvas with SharePoint Spaces. So all I have to do is click new, and just like I can create a new list in SharePoint or a page, I can create a new space. So I'm just going to choose space, and then what kind of experience do I want the individual to have? Do I want them to have a open, expansive environment to explore content, or do I want them to be more contained within this versatile framed space, what we call the amphitheater? So I'm going to say Sky Gallery. And maybe I want to call this patient, let's say patient scan. I have a three-dimensional scan of a model, or, I could call this, heart modeling or anything that I wish to call it. And then I can give it a description. So now I just click finish. And what it's doing is it's creating my canvas. So my canvas is being designed, and once my canvas is ready for me, what I can do is I can start to put my objects on that canvas. So now what it's done is I have where the individual would be standing. So you can imagine if they're wearing a headset, they're going to be standing in this amphitheater, this expansive and open environment. They can look up and they can look down and they can navigate around. But what I want to do now is I want to get content in. But first, let's do a few quick design edits to this particular space. So one, how do I want it, dark or light? I'll darken it so the environment's a little darker. I can also choose what I want the background to be. I can choose a flat color canvas, or I can choose a 360-degree image. So in this particular case, maybe I want to be creative and I'll have them in a canyon. So I can choose a canyon as their background. If I want a welcome message, I can also add a welcome message. So I can browse for a file that could be representative of the welcome message. So when they enter this space, they have some guidance or perhaps just some fundamentals of how to work within the context of the space. So now I can choose what ambient sound I want. In ambient sound, perhaps I want it to be an empty room. I want absolute silence, or I can create the sound of wind within the context of that room. Down here under advanced, what we have is this concept called radial layout mode. And what radial layout mode allows for is when enabled, we use the power of intelligence to prevent things such as occlusion. So we actually help the user design the space intelligently to where they're not placing objects too near, too far, or supersetting objects within the context of the space. So we help them from a design perspective. So now I've kind of got my space laid out the way I want it. I've got my new canyon view. I can come in quickly and add content, whether that's an image, a video, a 3D object. I can add a document library to allow them to explore documents immersively. Again, more videos, 2D versus or standard versus 360, or people. Maybe I want to allow them to browse the organization and add that as an element in my mixed reality space. So I'm just going to drop people right there. And what we're going to do is, you can see I kind of placed it a little bit low. So I'm just going to drag it, and I can actually place it on the skyline. But now it looks a little too far away. So very quickly, I can click edit. I can give it a name. I could call it people or org chart. I can put it on a podium, or I can allow it to free float in space. I can also enter the name of the person whose organizational relationships I want to show. So I want to show Dan Holm. So I can add Dan, and then I can do scaling. So if I want to scale it, make it larger, I can rotate it. So as you can see, it's rotating way back there. I can give it a height. Let's go ahead and see, as you can see here, I'm moving it up and down within the canyon itself. Distance from user, I can bring it in closer. So as you can see, that was pretty far away. Now that I've done that, I can actually adjust the height, and then I can adjust its rotation. So now it's off to the side of the user, so when the user comes in, they can look right here, and that looks good to me. So if I wanted to, I can add additional content. Maybe now I want to add an object. So I can come in and choose an object. So we'll allow that to load for a moment, and that'll allow me to drop an object on this page as well. So, and then once we have an object on the page, what we can do is, there's my object there. I can choose a model. Again, harnessing the power of intelligence, it's making a recommendation based on recent models. So as you can see, I have a bunch of recent models here. I think I'm gonna go with this cruiser bike. I haven't seen it before. I'm gonna choose open. And now I've got another object. I'm gonna drop that one there since I clicked on the button twice. And I think I'm gonna go with this tent. And I'm gonna place this tent here as well. So now I've got this bicycle, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move the bike around just like I did. I can hover over it. I can choose edit. I can give it a name and a description if I wanted to. I could place it on a podium. So if I turn podium on, the bicycle itself will sit on top of a podium. I can transform and scale it so I can make it larger. I can position it on the page how I want it. I can angle it if I needed to angle it. So I'm going to go ahead and angle it over here. And then I'm just going to close. So now I've got this bicycle kind of sitting here. And I can move it around if I wanted to. So I'm just going to move it around. And now I'm going to say publish. So my page is ready to go. I'm getting out of edit mode. I'm going to close that. I've got this bicycle. And I'll have an organizational chart that'll pop up here in a minute. But the really cool thing is I can go in and I can view this in a headset if I wanted to, or I can just view it in freeform. To give you an idea, let me go to an existing content catalog that we created in this demo environment here. So we should see a bunch of objects here load up in a moment. As you can see, I've got the organizational chart, but I've also got this podium that's loading up over here. So you can see I've got a bunch of different objects. Some of them are still loading. Here's a welcome message. So as you can see who we are, what we do, if I wanted to add that. But let's say I wanted to look at this bicycle. You notice how I could pull this out, and now I can rotate this and actually see it in the way it was intended to be seen. So it provides a really easy way of getting started with these immersive experiences. And the best part is if I had a mixed reality headset, which I do, unfortunately, a little more difficult to demo, what I could do is I could then opt to use a headset. And by virtue of using that headset, I can actually explore that same image, perhaps of that bicycle, in a more immersive way, the way it was designed to be experienced. So then I could actually walk underneath the bicycle, or I could walk to the sides. I could grab it and rotate it by hand and explore it. There's a number of different ways that we see people using spaces in SharePoint. One is from a training and education perspective. So you can take some complex scenarios and help deliver those in a more visual way. And that allows movement in all three dimensions. So if you have a headset that provides 6 degrees of freedom, you have pitch, you have yaw, you can walk back and forth, and you can really experience the content in the way that it was designed. Data visualization is another way. So you can synthesize the complex data sets and really get visual displays that aid in both navigation and operations. Virtual tours are relatively self-explanatory. It's a great way to enable somebody to experience a space without having to be in that physical space. And then lastly, a content catalog. So you'll see more and more organizations, particularly public websites, in the fashion industry and in the furniture industry, and even in real estate. You're seeing more and more virtual tours, but you're also seeing more and more content catalogs, enabling people to experience a piece of content before they actually opt to purchase it. So really allowing people not only to see the front and the back of a shirt, for example, but to be able to rotate it and see it in its true form goes a long way in helping people understand and rationalize data. So what I'm going to do from here is on the last slide, there's a website where you can learn more about SharePoint Spaces at exploresharepointspaces.com. If you scroll to the bottom of the website, there's a application that you can submit to join our preview program, which enables you early access to SharePoint Spaces. So again, that's exploresharepointspaces.com. So very quickly, I want to use the last half or 15 minutes of this presentation to address questions and answers, because I'm sure there are quite a few that we still need to get to. So what I'll do now is just kind of work through roadmap. From a roadmap perspective, for SharePoint Spaces, it's currently in private preview. You can visit exploresharepointspaces.com and opt in for our private preview program. On the search roadmap, the things that are available today is search in Bing, Office.com, the Office Online app pages, SharePoint Web and Mobile, as well as Outlook search improvements. And as I mentioned as a response to one of the questions, is you can simply go to the Admin Center today and activate the Microsoft Search experience. So coming soon, we will have search in the Office apps, in Windows, in Edge. We'll also have next generation search relevancy, leveraging Graph and Bing web technologies, people and expert search, answers, insights, Power Apps, buildings, floor plans, and a more unified admin portal. And then into the future, it'll also be extensible via connectors, automated questions and answers, as well as acronym and topic extraction. So we've got a pretty great search roadmap ahead of us to really drive this concept of intelligent discovery and everyday artificial intelligence. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pause, and we can use the remainder of the time to address any questions that the audience may have.
All right, thank you so much, Bill. And of course, we have a lot of questions here. And I think through the mixed reality presentation, I think people were in awe, so they were just like concentrating on the presentation, and now we have the questions coming up. But I'll go back to the questions we have majorly on the back on the Microsoft Search. So one question is, will the search box in the suite bar show up on all SharePoint sites in our tenant, including classic and modern sites?
So the search the search box itself will, as part of this coherent search experience, will be shifted to the header on your modern sites.
Okay. Then can we add the Q&A list as a web part on a SharePoint page?
The Q&A list, not at the moment, but that is definitely a great suggestion. And directionally, you know, it obviously makes sense to be able to add that as a web part. So you can create a number of different web parts today that provide similar functionality that don't take advantage of the Q&A list that exists today in Microsoft Search. But so today you could create your own Q&A experience based on our new modern list principles. Leveraging Q&A in search, the design is a little bit different, you know, than traditional FAQ, but not via, you know, web part ingestion today, no.
Okay. Another question, is there a provision of removing some search results temporarily? For instance, if someone misconfigured the permission to allow everyone to see the content when it was not supposed to?
Yeah, so you know, from the Search Admin Console, you'll get insights into top queries and you'll be able to get that information. But there is, as with any search experience, it does take some dependency on the users, fundamentally, you know, understanding, you know, search permissioning. So one of the things is, you know, today we've tried to simplify the permissioning experience in SharePoint and OneDrive to remove a lot of the complex permission levels from the views that users were accustomed to with SharePoint in the past. And some of those views are effectively what, you know, enabled, you know, users to perhaps choose the wrong sharing option just because they weren't familiar with SharePoint terminology. They hadn't had the experience with SharePoint to kind of understand what a visitor versus a reader versus edit versus own were in full control and the variety of different permissions facets. But with the simplified permissions, we're seeing less and less of that overexposure. But at the same time, there's always going to be a dependency on users. Now, it'd be a great feature to be able for an admin via a search-driven experience to locate all of the things that are shared with everybody. The biggest challenge would be is one, trying to identify false positives. Did they intend to share with everybody? That's something that we can't answer, even from an intelligence perspective. It's hard to understand that intent because they may have intended to share with everybody. In some cases, they may not have. Again, that's an intent that we wouldn't be able to understand or interpret. And then at the same time, you can imagine having to work with every user based on what your discovery experience was. So if you find 4 million files, generated by 300,000 users, that's a lot of individuals to walk through on a one-on-one basis. But I think part of anything from an intelligent discovery experience, even when we in 2014 introduced our first graph-driven app, which was Delve, the big question is it's changing user behavior, or not necessarily the big question. That's kind of the big shift that you need to understand as an organization. So there is a lot of training and development that goes in to educating users from a permissions perspective, not only because of search, but just in general from a fundamental content security perspective. You need to educate users on search. So fortunately, upcoming this month, we're going to launch a new search resource center that contains resources to help you drive search usage and adoption, but as well as educate users and administrators of search. So we're going to have a number of new public resources from a usage and adoption perspective to a user education perspective to an administrative perspective that hopefully help solve some of these challenges.
All right, that sounds great. Another question is, so someone is trying to activate Microsoft Search in Bing, but they are getting a message that it's not currently available in their SKUs or locations. So is it because it's in preview, I'm guessing? Bill, you are on mute.
Just a sec.
Sure, no problem.
Alrighty, there we go. Thanks. So I have a headset and my hand accidentally touches the mute button. So from a SKU perspective, if that individual could follow up with me directly, and I can do a little bit of research to see what the challenge is. My email address is, if they're still on and listening, is WBAER, so WBaer @Microsoft.com. Just send me a note in the subject, mention the webinar so it helps me find that email better. I'd like to look into it to better understand the SKU, and we'll have a look at it.
All right, that sounds great, and we'll share the email ID as well in the chat here, so we have it available. Another one, which is an interesting one, is can we connect Google search instead Bing search for the intelligent search experience?
No, so the Microsoft Search experience again is built into our endpoints. Today Microsoft Search leverages Bing as an endpoint to the Microsoft Search experience. So if you think about what Microsoft Search is Microsoft Search is kind of a solutions level experience. Bing is an endpoint, Outlook is an endpoint, Office.com is an endpoint. The Office applications, endpoints, Windows endpoint, SharePoint endpoint. So all of these are a variety of different entry points that allow you to experience the Microsoft search solution in Microsoft 365. Bing is a separate search engine, outside of the scope of Microsoft. So you can't necessarily take, Bing and integrate it with Microsoft Search. Two fundamentally different experiences. And then again,
Google, right?
What's that?
You mean Google, not Bing.
Or Google. Yeah, I'm sorry. On the Google side, it's a separate, let's call it a walled garden per se, unto itself with its own security and privacy controls. So, it's not necessarily something that you would want to do, and it's not something we enable you to do. And again, Bing is just an entry point. So it's not that Microsoft Search is driven through Bing. It's that your search experiences are powered by Bing and Graph technology, and Bing is just one of the ways to get there. There are browser extensions for creating content and such. So if you're using Chrome or you're using Edge, and you saw in the Search Administrative Center, you can do some content creation experiences via browser extensions, and that's one of the ways that you can leverage your own preferred tool set. But no, Bing's not an entry point for us, or I mean Google. Sorry.
Okay, now moving on to the mixed reality and SharePoint Spaces questions. So for the mixed reality scenarios, any examples for the healthcare life sciences domain that can be useful?
Yeah, so one of the things here in sciences is modeling experiences. So from a modeling perspective, we're seeing a number of companies, and I can't mention any names within the webinar itself, but we have companies that specialize in prosthetics, and they're really using mixed reality as an opportunity to experience those prosthetics in more of an immersive environment. And effectively what they're doing is democratizing access to the models themselves. So a couple of ways they're using it is in the past for this particular organization, they would create 3D models representative of a proposed prosthetic, and then those models would be available only to the individuals that had the requisite desktop software to visualize 3D models, which was both costly and unsustainable within the organization. So really, access to information was very contained, and the containment basis was on availability of a desktop application. So as you can imagine, they gained a lot of fresh new perspective and the ability to actually collaborate against content. Because the content itself is just stored inside of SharePoint, we provide you a SharePoint-driven canvas to experience it. You get all of the collaborative capabilities of SharePoint around it. So no longer, were these models, bound by availability of an application. Now that the access to those could be democratized, you've got fresh perspectives from across the organization, and you can actually take recommendations from somebody who might not be an engineer, but somebody who has a unique perspective on how this particular model could be designed better for the benefit of the recipient patient. So and these fresh perspectives can come from a variety of different roles. Somebody in an administrative function could have some experience, and that could be personal experience based on their own lives or of their family or friends, or it could just be that they have a great idea, and great ideas always start with an individual, and in many cases that individual doesn't have experience in that particular space, but they have an idea that can kind of shape a new trend or define a new trend. So that's a great example. So by taking these prosthetic models and bringing them into a collaborative space, it allowed more organizational knowledge to be brought into the experience itself, but it also allowed more people to inject unique perspectives and reduce cost at the same time. We also see it from a variety of different devices, and again from devices, medical devices, because it allows you to immerse yourself, take advantage of collaborative capabilities, annotate content, keep versions, and combine that with the power of content that exists outside of those models, such as adding PowerPoint and Word and all of the collaborative apps into that immersive experience.
All right, thank you, Bill. And since we are at the end of time, we can take maybe one quick last question.
Sure.
So everybody's saying thank you, and it looks cool, but in the presentation of mixed reality, it was a bit slow. So is it because of the end user computer limitations or on the server side?
Oh, so on the performance perspective, in this particular case, I am on a very low powered machine, and working with a relatively substantial model, because if you think of the models themselves, such as the bicycle, that's made up of an inordinate number of polygons, and my particular machine with a very low res display adapter takes a while to be able to load all of those polygons and make those available, and at the same time I'm trying to stream it out via a live stream. But the actual from a performance perspective, if you're on a rather industry standard type machine with 8 gigs of RAM, an integrated graphics card, you actually have a pretty great experience on those devices. In my particular case, not only am I streaming and I've got 4 different browsers open, but I have a relatively weak integrated device. But yeah, so it's not necessarily server side, and it's not. So I would blame myself for any performance issues.
Well, thank you so much, Bill, for the amazing presentation and demos. I surely learned a lot of cool stuff today. So I'm sure our attendees learned a lot new things, and there are a lot of questions around where can they learn more about the information. So I'm just about to talk about that right now. So thanks, Bill. Thank you again. For the next steps, please follow the Microsoft Healthcare and Life Sciences blog, which is aka.ms/HLS blog. Please do visit this site, and we'll be posting out the recording and all of the resources that Bill just mentioned out here on the blog, and keep updating it with the new resources. If you want a deep dive for your specific organization, then please contact your Microsoft account team. Please connect with us, the host or the speaker. We have our LinkedIn, links right here. And then just quickly join us for tomorrow's session, which is about Microsoft OneDrive for Business, and we have the calendar invite attached here. This is another great session by another great speaker. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow and at the next sessions.
And thank you everybody for attending. Have a wonderful day, evening, or morning.